Hey people, welcome to the Run Test. It's Kieran here, and I've just paused during my first run with a Nike Streakfly. Taking these bad boys out, they arrived about an hour ago, put them straight out in the park to see what they're made of. They're super lightweight. Been doing some speedy mile intervals here, and in this video I'm going to tell you what I made of them on those first few miles on this first ever outing. So before I get into it, there's a caveat here, is that I've only run 4 miles in these pretty quick, so there's a lot that still has to be discovered about these shoes, but I wanted to give you a quick first impressions, mainly because I'm so excited to get these shoes out of the box and give them a go. So here it goes, I'm going to do my fit whilst I'm on the move. Now these shoes, I think they share a lot of the same kind of DNA as the Nike Vaporfly, really. The uppers feel very similar to the Vaporfly 2nd gen. One thing you'll notice when I first put them on, in a UK 8.5, they felt slightly long in the toe actually. There's a little bit more room towards the end than I would normally find in a pair of shoes like this. Felt a little bit unnatural when I first put them on. Now I'm out running, I don't notice it at all. And actually the 8.5 fit, it's great. I've got good lockdown. There's no slipping so far, even when I'm really pushing it up a pace, ticking over the pavement here. And actually they've kind of disappeared on the foot and feel really, really super comfortable. Kind of shoes that you, again, I think some of this, although they're made for 5 to 10k running, immediately my thought has gone straight to the marathon. I know that's not what Nike wants to kind of position these shoes for. They want them to be for those kind of faster runs, but they have got an awful lot of comfort in them when you first slip them on. You know, so you've got that same sort of slightly side lacing structure, diagonal kind of lacing. You've also got quite a lot of room in the toe box, I think, here for the Nike shoes. There's a decent amount of room for the toes to splay. That feels nice and comfortable. Around the heel, I did think they looked a little bit baggy when I first laced them in. You know, like that heel collar was a bit sort of flaccid in a way. Something that's a little bit familiar actually with the Vaporflies. It doesn't always kind of sit sort of up rigid, but actually that's quite a nice thing now I'm running, because there's no pressure points so far. I mean, it's a short run, but there's been no pressure from any of that kind of heel collar on and around the foot. I haven't had time to digest all the information, the stats and specs about these shoes. I've literally just put them on and gone and run with them. So you'll have to forgive me. There are some gaps in the knowledge on this first one, but I'm just going to tell you how I feel about these shoes. We'll find out whether or not my assessments stack up with the specs and the tech sheet a little bit later. But the one thing here, when you first put these on, to me they feel a little bit flatter than the Vaporfly. You're not getting so much of a kind of a tilt forward that you get when you put those sort of racers on that sort of makes you feel immediately up and kind of poppy. But I don't think that's a terrible thing actually. There is a little bit of wobble in the shoe when you're walking in them, but it feels to me like a little bit more of a stable base on these. Which I quite enjoy. That midsole foam that we've got here is the ZoomX. Really, really compressive. It almost kind of compacts completely, which I don't think is quite the case with the Vaporflies. Now, when you hold it in your hand and squeeze it, it almost kind of presses down to almost flat. And when you put them on the shoe, it's quite an odd sensation. Now, the ride underfoot, I think, is really punchy. There is a lot of spring in this, and it's been a lot of fun for those first 3 miles. Pushing it up, I've gone to some paces that are probably the fastest that I'm able to manage at the moment. So for me, that we're talking, I've run at sort of pace around kind of 5:40s for small stints, not for very long. And it's felt really, really nice. When you're on that kind of midfoot to forefoot and you're sort of punching the ground and getting that good kind of firm, sort of stable push off, there is a lot of response in these. And actually that paired with this kind of super lightweight feel, I think Nick said, the ones that he's got are 186 grams in a UK men's size 9. That is really, really, really light. And that makes a huge difference. These feel light, they feel nimble, kind of barely there. But that base underfoot of ZoomFly foam, if it's actually working a treat, just enough, I think, protection from the ground. You know, they've got 5 and 10k stamped on the side of the shoe. What's going to be interesting is whether or not there's only just enough cushioning and support and protection there from the impact to take you up to those distances, or whether or not these might even go slightly longer. The other thing, I'm now just plodding along at a sort of far more leisurely pace, and they don't feel unnatural right now at this pace either. There isn't a huge amount of wobble. There's a little bit, the sort of stability kind of goes. They're obviously at their best when you're really running along at a clip, but that's another interesting thing. They feel like they might have some more versatility in them. The other thing I'm going to be interested to see is when I get back to see what happens in terms of the durability. How long will these last? That foam compresses so much that I just don't know how that will hold up after, you know, 300 miles or whatever it is that you might be doing in these. The other thing to say is I've Just did a couple of laps with those fast paces on some really tight bends. Grip was fine, road holding was fine. That stability in the corners was kind of okay. They performed pretty well on those kind of tight turns. Again, that's something maybe you might find yourself doing if you're doing sort of shorter, sharper, faster courses up to the 10K. I think I was running a couple of days ago in the Adidas Takumi Zen 8, and I've run recently in the Adios Pro 2, and I don't know whether I'm right, but they feel a little bit narrower. There's a bit of a kind of wider base, I think, in the midfoot of these shoes that's kind of lending a little bit more of that stability. There's none of that kind of rolling out, kind of heel cutaway that you get with those shoes either. And if I had to kind of go with my gut instinct on that initial kind of road feel from putting the Takumi Zen and these Streakflies on, the first feel is that these feel a lot more natural to my foot. They feel a lot more comfortable with the way that I kind of run. They feel better on the foot initially than the Takumi Zen. I mean, I really loved the Takumi Zen. I thought they were a proper lively, fun shoe that I really enjoyed, and I will run a lot in those. But there's something that I think initially feels a little bit more sort of, got a little bit more of that disappearing feeling on the foot than I did with the Takumi Zen. I had to work a little bit harder to get my feet in and get the shoe to feel right on my foot, which is quite a high, kind of wide foot. So my verdict then, first run with the Nike Streakfly, is that actually these seem like a fantastic shoe so far. They definitely feel like they're going to tick that box of, you know, if sort of Nike have said that they kind of haven't really given us a shoe that kind of copes well with 5-10K kind of racing. You've got the Vaporfly and the Alphafly, which are for bigger, longer distances really, and people have been using those for shorter, but they haven't really nailed it when it comes to a sort of a shorter race shoe, and that's what they're trying to do with these. And it feels so far from the tests that I've done that they're going to fit that bill really nicely. They're light, they're agile, they're really, really responsive. They feel super comfortable on the foot. They kind of disappear from the off. They've had a lot of punch, a lot of pop, and I've enjoyed those first few miles. Yeah, so we'll have another review on these on the channel, a full review coming up soon. Tomorrow, Nick is actually going to do a session test, so we'll have a bit more information on them for you over the next coming couple of days as well. So be sure to kind of subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell, do all of that kind of stuff that you've got to do to find out when those videos go live on the channel. Yeah, thank you for watching that quick, really short, sharp first run with a Nike Streakfly.